Okay, so this is just running through the process or a way to get a side-scrolling animation, or indeed a vertically scrolling animation. It's the same technique, but with some animated GIFs attached to the image. So you can include very simple GIF animations without having to learn how to do it in CSS and JavaScript. So if I just show you here, so I've got this landscape, and obviously I've just got it set to scroll. I've then got an arrow moving along, and this is just an animated GIF sitting on top, and then I've got a funny little figure coming out of the back of the landscape. Okay, so it's just two. So we've got an image with two animations sat on top. Now I'm going to show you how to do this. It is just code, so I will just run through it and explain it to you. So what I've got here is I've got a very simple HTML page I've got HTML opening. Let's make this nice and big for you. We're opening some HTML here, and we're closing it here. We've got a head, and the head closes here. We've got a title, which currently says untitled, which is why it says untitled here. These are just, this is the meta node, the description. This is just what you're meant to fill in. This is, I'll delete that. You don't actually need it. It's what you're meant to put in for search engine purposes. This then is a link, important. It's a link to the style sheet, and I've called my style sheet styles.css. Don't touch the other bits. It's called styles CSS. This, again, I'm going to suggest we get rid of, but I'll leave it in. This is just if any of you losers are still stuck on Internet Explorer 9, which is a rubbish browser made by Microsoft. This is a piece of code that will hack it to make it work. So feel free to delete that bit. So in other words, in the head, there is just a link to a style sheet and the title. Okay, so don't forget open and close, open, and then here's the close of the head. The link doesn't need a separate close, it just is a link. Okay. Now, inside the body, which is the bit that actually matters, I've got something called scroller, although in actual fact, again, this isn't needed, but I've set this up. Scroller, there's the div, there's the div. Okay. Then what I've done is I've put in an image, and it literally is image source equals ring JPEG alt landscape close. Now the only other bit I've done is I put three images in. They're all the same: image source alt, image source alt. Now in order to get them to move and go separately and place each one, you need to give each one a name. So I've given each one an ID. So this one is called scroll background, which is the landscape. I've got ID my GIF, which is the arrows, and ID hello GIF, which is the figure popping up from the landscape. Okay, so that's all this is I've set up three images, and they're all set to, they've all got names. Now, if we go to this style sheet here, styles, I'll just run through all of this. What this is doing is it's saying everything on the page should have no padding, no margin, which is what is making it butt up against the edges. Okay, this one is the one that I said is unnecessary. I was trying to see if I could set it to 75%, but it doesn't seem to make any difference. So in actual fact, I'm pretty certain if I delete that, it still works fine. Okay, so there is no requirement for that. So I've just taken that out. Okay, now scroll background. This is the important bit. Each of these images we need to fix exactly where they are. Okay, so it's position absolute. And where is it being fixed? It's being fixed 0 pixels from the top and 0 pixels from the left, which means that it's fitting right into this scroll background into the top left corner. The z-index is how far in the stack. It's like layers. So 1 is very low. The next one is at 10, so it will appear above. Okay. Height, I've just specified the height of this image. The reason I've done that is that this actual image, I didn't fit the right size. You just make sure that yours is the right size. I've made it 1000 by 3000. 1000 is probably too tall because it's 1920 1080, although my 75% maybe was working. I can't work it out. Anyway, so that's, I've got it set to 1000. Okay. Now, width 3000. That's the 3000 scroll. Okay, but looking at it, you probably want more, you know, so if you set this to much more, just make sure it matches your image. Now my GIF is the arrows, and again I've set position absolute. I've set the top to 510 down, and from the left 1220. How did I get those numbers? Well, by trial and error. Okay, so what I did to start with, I guessed it probably needed to be about halfway down, 500, and I guessed probably 1000 across. Okay, 1000 across. Z-index 10 just means it's above Z-index 1, so it'll float on top of that previous image. So if you just save that now and go back, you'll see that when we refresh it, it's just in the wrong place. So I know that it needs to go to the right. So I just did it at trial and error. I did 1500 to start with and saved it and just went back to here and refreshed. And I saw that it was too far over. So half of the difference would be 1250. Okay, and save and just refresh. And I can see it's still a little bit too far over. So then I tried 1200. Save and back to here and refresh. And here I can just see it needs to be a little bit further. So then I tried 10. In the end, I fixed on 1220. Okay, so save and refresh. And in the end, I decided that it perhaps needed to be down a bit further, so I actually moved it down to 510. Save. But that's just a... Okay, so that, hopefully that makes sense. Now, the other figure, this one, I did the same thing. I just placed it. I do just want to show you that GIF quickly. So what I did was I used the actual image. I drew my figure onto the image, and I kept the background. Okay, so I cropped it, but I kept the background, and then I was able to get it to match. So you can see that what I then tried to do is get it to match so it looks seamless, but it's not quite seamless. You can actually just see there's a sharp edge there, but it's good enough. And as a result, I've been able to make it look like it's coming out from behind the hill. Okay. And it was the same with the arrows. To get the arrows placed right, I left the image in place, drew the arrows over, then when I exported it, I just hid the background layer. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, if we just head back to here, if you were to look at the rest of it, so it's pretty well straightforward. Okay. I don't think there's much else that you necessarily need to worry too much about. I say just don't need to worry about this. It was an extra bit that I added in. But if you wanted to add in more figures, more animations, bits of text, GIFs would appear to work really well for this because it's a really simple embedding process. So just to go back, you can see I'm just literally placing this in, giving it a name, and then in the CSS, I'm just telling where to put it. And that's it. So hopefully this might give some of you a few clues how you could make, if some of you talked to me about having lights that turned on and off and little bits of animation that happened, and GIFs would seem to be a reasonable way to do it, especially as it's a web technology. So it's going to pop up. Hello. Okay. So I think that's quite simple. I'll make this available. I'll just make some tiny changes to get rid of that scroll a bit so it doesn't confuse you. But beyond this, it's very straightforward. So I might also leave some notes in the file for you. But have a look, replace the images with yours, and lo and behold, you've got a scrolling infographic. And these GIFs, by the way, everything I've just dumped in the same folder. And you can see these GIFs. The hello GIF is 400k. The infinity GIF, sorry, that's the one that the student did. The ring GIF, which is the arrows, is 7k. So these are tiny. So it doesn't really have much impact at this level on the on the final size of your infographic when we put it online. Okay, so this is static HTML with GIFs embedded. I hope that helps. Okay, see you soon. Bye.